for those that don't know, I'm Kane Simms. I'm the founder of VUX, and we're a consultancy and a media company. We work with large companies, we work with kind of like medium-sized companies, and our goal really is to help businesses design, build, and scale effective AI solutions. So we've been doing this for a long time, and I know there's a few people in this room who've also been doing this a long time. We've got Micah here, and Romina, and JP's here at the back, and there's a lot of people here who've been doing work in this space since, almost a decade it's been, since we started working with language-based interfaces. Amazon Alexa was the thing that kind of got me into it in 2017, and it was like, voice is the future and all that kind of thing. And then voice kind of went away. Like, voice for me in 2017 was like, obviously going to be the interface to this technology. It was obvious and clear, and for whatever reason Alexa didn't quite make it to where we thought it might get to, and then things went quiet a little bit on the voice front in sort of like 2019, 2020. COVID helped a little bit. Loads of contact centers during COVID were like, right, we'll better sort this out because we've got a load of volume coming in. So it started to take off a little bit, but again, the technology was a little bit clunky. It was difficult. It was fair enough with chatbots using NLU systems. It's a lot easier. You got a lot more UI affordances. You can use buttons, you can use images, you can embed stuff. But with voice, I've always called voice pure conversation design, because you have no guardrails, you've got no way of orienting the user in terms of where are they in the experience, what can they do, what's the limitations of the system. There's so much challenges when it comes to designing voice user interfaces. But what's been really, really interesting is, over the last couple of years, since the advent of generative AI, it's kind of gotten a bit of a resurgence. Like this year, I don't know if you feel the same, but this year it seems as though everyone's talking about voice AI now. And it's like, well, why is that? And there's a few reasons why I think that that's the case. And the main reason is because it used to be reserved for those that had money, basically. JP's at the back there. We did a load of work with Amazon Alexa back in the day, and it was all massive companies. It's Sony, and it's all these kind of companies who've got big budgets, and they're willing to spend a bit to experiment. But for the average kind of business, medium-sized to large business, it was kind of out of reach because it was very complex. But now the technology is making it such that loads of businesses can now get themselves mobilized with AI, which is absolutely fantastic. And so what kind of this is about is, what we did recently is we ran a project with a client, and we wanted to test, what are these kind of new school platforms like? If you were to actually put it in front of real customers and you call them and make a phone call, what are they like? What are they good at? What are they bad at? And so this is a little bit of a tale about that. So first, why voice? So we do a lot of work with the contact center, and as an interface, firstly, voice is far faster. I don't know how many of you dictate now instead of typing. I mean, it's, whisper flow and stuff like that. I can't remember the last time I typed an email. It's just annoying typing now. Because voice is it's a lot faster. 130 words a minute we can speak on average. We can type about 30 to 70. And on a mobile phone, we can type between 30 and 35. So as an input medium, voice is far more efficient, it's far faster. Question marks in terms of as an output, because you can't, the audio comes back at you and you can't speed it up, whereas you can scan a lot quicker. But as an input medium, it's absolutely huge. In a contact center specifically, you might think that AI is going to take away the contact center and there's going to be no more calls going through the contact centers. But what's actually happened since 2015, there was 78 billion calls globally going through contact centers. Now it's estimated to be 118 billion. So it's going up, because loads of companies have invested in loads of technology, but it doesn't always work all of the time. And all of that long tail stuff, people are still calling for. And lastly, there's tremendous value in the contact center. Nobody likes calling the contact center. Nobody likes being put on hold. The average wait time on an average call center is between 7 to 9 minutes. And I'm sure that you've all been on hold for a hell of a lot longer than that. I would say that's kind of conservative. So the value is absolutely there. The user need is there because people are still calling. The business need is there because you've got massive wait times and you can't handle the demand. And the question mark is around the technology. Is the technology there? Is the technology ready? Now, JP might recognize this. Do you recognize this? Yeah, I blurred it all out, but this was from a project that we did back in 2019, 2020, something like that. This is, can you see it? Yeah, voice flow. Can you see that? This is what you used to have to do to design a voice user interface. All of these lines going from one node to another, and this one to the other. What happens if they say this? Well, send them here. What if they say that? Well, send them there. What happens if they say this? Well, send them back to that one again. And you used to have to track all these variables. What turn have we been through? What turn have we missed? What question was last? And honestly, it was an absolute nightmare. That's just the design. The building of these solutions was even more of a nightmare because there was no tools like this that you can just drag and drop and thread together stuff. You had to code it all. So sitting behind this was like a Node.js. Further up. Is that better? Yeah. Whoa, I feel like I'm going to take off. Behind this was like Node.js files that did all the dialogue and all the logic and all that kind of stuff. It was an absolute nightmare. These days, when people talk about AI and they talk about the speed to value, and it's like certain projects are being done in 30 days, this was 6 months minimum, absolute minimum. But now what's interesting is there's just loads of tools available now because generative AI is really accessible. Anyone can access these OpenAI APIs and Anthropic APIs. This is a real small snapshot of just some of the voice AI specific tools in there. There's lots of other tools that allow you to do voice AI, but these are just the kind of like specific voice focused ones. And so we kind of ran a project with a client. We thought, what can we make it do? Can we get these things up and running quickly? And do they actually have any value as we anticipate them to do? So we work with a debt collection company. They have people that miss payments. So if you miss a payment, 9 times out of 10, someone's got to pick up the phone, call you, hey Jim, you missed your payment, can you make a payment, all that kind of stuff. Hardly anyone answers, so you're wasting your time most of the time. There's loads of agents making phone calls that never get answered, and it's just a complete waste of time. So we created a voice AI agent that made these calls. So if you've missed your payment, and it's so long, a few days have gone by, you would get a call from our voice AI agent. 69% of calls made, there was some kind of contact made. So 25% answered and had a conversation, and 44% it went to voicemail. But we left them a voicemail message. Now you might think, well, 25% answer rate, that's not great. And maybe it's not that great, but how much do you think that cost compared to how much it would cost a person to do the same thing and have the same success rate? So in terms of the results, what happened is 75% of people that engaged, so either it went to voicemail or they actually had a conversation, 75% of them made a payment. 3/4 of people made a payment. 67% of those that received a voicemail also made a payment, compared to 50% of the control group that they didn't receive a phone call at all and still paid. So if you do nothing, half of the people paid. Just leaving them a voicemail, more people paid. Talking to them, even more. And once you've built this thing, it's up and running. You can make phone calls all day long. So you can afford to have kind of poor response rates because it's not really costing you a great deal. So the results are good, but what's happening behind the scenes and what's going on? So some of the learnings here, and I'm sure that those who have been doing this for a while, like we have, know this kind of stuff already, but the user interface, on a voice user interface, all you have is the voice. You don't have anything else. You've got the voice and the words that are said, that's it. That's the only thing the user experiences is the voice and what's said. So, you know, all the stuff around RAG and agents and MCPs and tools, none of that matters. All that matters is what the user actually experiences. And the main thing with that is how the voice sounds. Now, this was a debt collection use case, and you think, oh, voice synthesis has come on a great deal. 11 Labs, absolutely brilliant. You try finding a voice that matches for this use case, and it is an absolute nightmare because they're all professionally recorded studio voices from high quality voice actors that don't sound anything like call center agents, especially not a call center agent that needs to have empathy because they're calling someone who's fell behind on a payment, and you can't have a kind of patronizing tone. You can't sound as though you're better than them. You've got to be on their level and you've got to speak their language. So it took forever to find a voice. I'll try and see if I can play this. Let me see if the audio is good enough for you to hear this. Hello.
Good evening. I'm calling from about your payment plan, as we noticed an issue with your latest repayment. I'm looking to speak to...
Speak it.
Thank you. I'm calling because our system shows you missed your latest repayment, and I just want to make sure we can get that sorted to avoid further action on your account. It'll only take a few minutes. Is now a good time?
So, you wouldn't believe how long it took to find that voice. A voice that sounds a little bit, it doesn't sound like they're from London, because all the voices sound like they're from London. They all sound very well spoken. It took absolutely forever. Another one which was interesting is the dialogue. Now, again, with these kind of, LLM-based systems, you don't have granular control over the dialogue. And in a chat interface, you probably don't realize it because you just read it and you get the gist. In a voice user interface, you notice when something isn't written properly, it sounds off. You're like, oh, that sounds a bit strange, like what's going on there? What we found is that if you write the key things, like the opening line, how are you going to greet this person? Bearing in mind you're going to call them about asking them for money, and they're not going to want to speak to you. The opening lines are really important. And secondly, you need to write for something being said rather than for something being read. Now, in terms of the large language models, and everyone says, oh, large language models are great at managing conversations, they're great at dialogue. How many large language models have been trained on speech data? None of them. They haven't been trained on conversations, they haven't been trained on spoken dialogue, and so you've kind of got to give that to them. So for example, if you're going to write something, you wouldn't write something like this. This sounds a bit casual, but it works in conversation. So listen to how this thing asks about, it tells you what I'm calling for and the reason for calling, and I'll show you, hold on.
I'm calling because our system shows you missed your latest repayment, and I just want to make sure we can get that sorted to avoid further action on your account. It'll only take a few minutes. Is now a good time?
So normally, if you were going to rely on an LLM on its own, it probably wouldn't say, I'm just calling to try and get that sorted. Getting that sorted is a bit casual, it's a bit kind of like conversational, it sounds natural, but the LLMs on their own won't use that kind of language because they haven't been trained on that kind of data. The next thing in terms of features that you've got to have in there, the first one is it has to be able to escalate to an agent. The thing is, with this use case as well, there's money on the line, so if you can't put them through to an agent, one, you're not going to get paid, but two, you're dealing with very vulnerable people as well, and so you have to give them the support that they need. So this is, all what I'm showing you now, they're real conversations, but what I've done is I've recorded what the person said so that I'm not playing you back someone else's audio that I don't have permission to show. So it's me on the call, but I've re-recorded the bits where the person's speaking, so I'm not exposing any data I shouldn't be, right? So I'll give you an example, and I'm pretty sure this one is, I'll play it first. I'll play it first anyway. I don't know if it's the right one. Hold on.
Are you able to make the £75 payment today?
No.
I understand. When can you make the payment?
Is this automated? This is actually what he said.
I'm a digital assistant calling on behalf of a debt recovery company.
Can I speak to an agent?
Transferring the call now.
That was about 2 minutes and 20 seconds into the conversation. We'd done the verification, we knew we were speaking to the right person, we'd explained the debt, we were asking about repayments. 2 minutes and 20 into the conversation, he was like, hold on, am I talking to a bot here? And it was like, yeah, of course, yeah, I'm an assistant. It was like, all right, okay, I want to speak to somebody then. So at that point, I mean, you might think that we'll try and keep them on the line, we'll try and, persuade, I've handled this loads of times before, and try and keep them on there. But in this case, with it being debt collection, it's like, let's just escalate them straight away.
So do you disclose at the beginning of the call?
Yeah, it does, it does disclose at the beginning, but obviously that's the other thing about voice user interfaces is that what's coming back is transient.
Yeah.
Once it's gone, it's gone. So it's not like a chatbot where you can read it again. Is that an assistant? Oh, it is, yeah. It's just a 3-second piece of audio, and when it's gone, it's gone. Which is also important in terms of LLMs. I won't put this in here, but things like how you structure your questions for the person you're speaking to. What you'll find LLMs do all the time is they'll ask a question, then they'll follow it by a statement, and they'll say, oh, we've got that in green and red. Would you like green or red? Because the green one's good, and the red one's even better. And if you want green or red, you can have green or red. It's up to you which one do you want. But it doesn't say which one do you want at the end. It asks the question first and follows it by a statement. By the time it's finished its statement, you forgot what the question was. So you've got to have the question at the end. So the other thing in terms of features, which is pretty cool, is it recognises when it goes to voicemail, and it will leave the voicemail. So here's an example of that one.
Your call has been forwarded to voicemail. The person you're trying to reach is not available. At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, you may hang up.
Hi, I'm calling on behalf of... This message is for... We are calling urgently regarding your account as your latest repayment has been missed. Please make the outstanding payment or contact us urgently via our website, live chat, or by
you get the gist. But the other thing that was interesting is it did things that we weren't expecting it to do. And you know how everyone has call screening these days? I don't really use it, but apparently loads of people use call screening, which is that when you make a phone call, something answers the phone first, and it's like, oh, can you just tell me who you are and what you want? And then it will relay a message back to whoever the person is you're trying to call, and it will decide whether or not you want to put them through. And we didn't do anything to have it do that, yet it did. So here's an example of that.
Hi, if you record your name and reason for calling, I'll see if this person is available.
Of course. This is Bailey calling on behalf of a debt recovery company.
Thanks, Bailey. Please stay on the line.
Thank you. I'll hold.
two robots talking to each other. It's mad. But it's cool because we didn't expect that to happen and didn't know it was going to happen, yet when it happened, it dealt with it. I'll wrap up now because I know we're getting on. Oh look, Taras has just come back with more beers. Perfect timing, right then. And Kane, sorry, I didn't realise you were staying there first. So some of the limitations that we found. One is that the language generation models, although they're great, they get things wrong quite a lot. Because they kind of like, I'll show you anyway, they tend to slur their speech every now and then and stuff like that. Like they're not consistent.
Please make the outstanding payment or contact us urgently via our website, live chat, or by phone on 01785.
Yeah, 017, but it does that every now and then. And I don't know, who received the call that we made either today, yesterday, or the day before? Yeah, so it was kind of me calling you, saying, are you still coming and all that kind of stuff. So what was interesting about that is that, I don't know if you noticed, but sometimes it would pronounce your name, Lorraine, right. It would say Lorraine Burrell. Other times it would say Lorraine Burrell, like that. And it's just really inconsistent with the voices. I hit your call screening.
Yeah, I thought you'd left me a voicemail. I didn't listen to
I hit someone else's call screening, and you know Martin Redstone?
Yeah.
I hit his call screening. The call screening agent, or if you want to call it that, had a conversation with that bot, and it relayed it back to Martin, who told it to say, yeah, tell it I'll be coming. So it's call screening thing come back to this and said, yeah, he's coming, yeah. It's class. So the next one is latency. Latency, because again, we use the platform that kind of comes pre-packaged with all this kind of stuff rather than building it all ourselves like we had to before. And the latency, sometimes it's okay, but sometimes it's not great and you can't really control it. So the latency between the last spoken voice and the agent coming back in again, on the platform it says it should be 1.3 seconds. Now that's a bit too long anyway, you want it under a second if you can, but the actual latency on this example is 2.1 seconds. It doesn't always do that, but sometimes it does, and you don't have the control on these platforms sometimes to kind of, control that kind of thing. Also barging, so sometimes you want to allow barging, which is that the user can just cut off what you're saying. Sometimes you don't, and it's a bit challenging to control that in these kind of platforms. Generally, as I mentioned, there's ways in which you can add more control in there, but you've got to break it down into workflows and do a lot more work. We're just trying to spin something up a lot faster. So you can't really control the infrastructure, can't really control the underlying technology. And as I said, the consistency was a little bit challenging. What was really helpful was the testing that we were doing. So we also have an automated testing tool called Hanger 5, and we were running it through this. And what that allowed us to do was just to test, at scale, how is it performing in its critical use cases and its edge cases. But with that got the consistency up, but sometimes you're still fighting against the platform. So it tells you it's going to send an SMS and it might not, or things like that. So there are some limitations, but what's really great about it, as I said at the beginning, it's not a tool, the one that we use is not a tool that Lloyds would use. It's definitely not a tool that GDS and government would use. But for a medium-sized business, 50 people, 200 people, 500 people, to give them the tools to be able to do stuff like this, rather than having 3 people make phone calls all week, you can have this AI do it instead. It brings down the barrier to entry, and the quality is not kind of enterprise grade, but what would you rather have? Nothing, or something that does a good enough job to help your business out. And so it's amazing the way that things have come. We're going to pause now. We'll go. I'll take some questions if you want. I'm going to be around here anyway. We've got pizza at the back. Again, don't forget, take some photos with the frames, because you'll be in with a chance of winning a book if you do that. If you want to kind of be on the list to get notified about more of these events, we're doing them, as I said, every 6 months or so. You can go to vuex.world/subscribe. You can join me on LinkedIn if you'd like to. We share stuff about this kind of thing fairly regularly. So thank you all for coming, and let's go and have some pizza.